The economic crisis we are seeing today is something we knew would happen if the world would not invest into innovation. We tried, but everyone called us crazy. Hey guys, I hope you've been keeping positive and motivated. If this is your first time here, I am Tor and I share my experience as part of my Life After Failure series to entertain, encourage and inspire you and people all around the world. My father was always so fascinated with the long waves of innovation or contractive waves. In very basic terms, they represent the defining industries of their time since around 1800. Each wave consists of a period of prosperity, recession, depression and improvement. The two most recent innovation cycles have been the automobile industry, which was then later replaced by the IT industry. And I guess we are yet to find out what the next and sixth cycle might be. But we can be certain that with it, it will bring a very prosperous time, which I'm sure you can all agree the world is currently not in right now. As I'm looking for graphics and shots from back then, I stumbled over so much information and it's quite shocking of how accurate my father's predictions were. We desperately wanted to be part of the sixth wave, predicting it would be related to clean and affordable energy production and routeless transportation. I guess this is where our predictions were not as accurate. Did we miss the mark? Or has the time just not come yet? My father started his IT company SCR in 1984, and he was ambitious as he wanted his company to become the Google that you know today. History has its way of repeating itself, and if you've been following my story for a while now, you will know that we lost that software business. Alexander the Great was also ambitious and wanted to conquer the world. But there came a time where those closest to him stopped believing in his vision and had their own agenda. So they killed him. At least this is how I know the story. My father wanted to become the Google you know today, but other executives wanted to sell off the company and become rich beyond their wildest dreams. So they plotted and planned, and they were eventually successful. They killed my father's dream. Within minutes, the business my father had built over 20 years was lost. But this is how we started working on the Tu-523, our hybrid electric VTOL aircraft. But developing something so innovative and technologically advanced to what was known to the world was challenging. And it being challenging is an understatement. If you don't already know what technologies we were developing or what the Tu-523 is, you can watch this video right here. So anyway, there was nothing left for us in the US and I packed my bags and moved back to Germany to start working on our newfound purpose. I had mentioned in a previous video that was not easy working with my father. But knowing what I know now about autism, having two children on the spectrum myself, I believe that my father was autistic, and his choleric outbursts were frustration not being able to communicate effectively with others. Communicating with my father was challenging, and he would always speak in code that not everyone would understand. Just as we got started, shit hit the fan. Losing his life work that allowed us all to live in ultimate luxury must have been so hard to process. Don't get me wrong, we all felt bad about it. But these were people he would have called his friends, and they betrayed us all. I don't know if it was because of this or if it would have happened one way or another. But one morning my father took my brother to school, and when he returned, the only word he could say was difficulty. My father suffered an aneurysm, which is a bleeding in the brain, and was rushed to hospital. He needed surgery that we didn't know if he would recover from, but he did. Kind of at least. If communicating with my father was difficult before, this incident made it even more difficult as it had affected his vocabulary and speech significantly. After a bit of normality came back into our lives, my father was determined to continue with the development. Some people still tell me today that he should have left it and let it go and live out the rest of his life with what was left. But I think that is very easily said, especially when you have a vision and believe that you can make a difference in the world. We cannot turn back time. If I could, would I do things differently? 100%. My father engaged with an engineering company that he had worked with during the SCR times. And it all started very well, but within a few years this person too tried to take advantage of us and even managed to run off with 20,000 euros. This really pissed me off. Yes, my father was difficult, but he was always very kind and wanting to help people. This particular person was struggling financially with a baby on the way, and my father happened to have 500 euros in his pocket and gave it to him to help him buy stuff for his child. Why did he also betray us and take advantage? I believe he initially saw the potential of the project and thought it would save him from all his financial worries, but he should have known that a project like this is not realized within days and you have to play the long game. Also, ego might have had something to do with it. Before, he was the boss, about to lose everything, and there comes my father kind of taking over. So I think the choice of people we started working with wasn't great. Also, rather than financing everything ourselves, it would have been wise to get investors involved early on and take advantage of government-funded schemes. But there were a few reasons why this wasn't an option for us, which I won't be discussing in this video. However, relying on government-funded schemes is very dangerous too, as I would learn firsthand. After returning to the UK after our time in Bolivia, and my wife having worked for a cosmetic company for about 18 months, her health was deteriorating. I promised her that if I don't get funding in place by, I don't know exactly when, I will leave it all behind and move on. My strategy: apply for an expansion East Kent, which was an expansion loan by the Kent County Council, and do a crowdfunding campaign to make up for the 40% of the business plan. What a relief it was when I found out that our crowdfunding campaign was 100% funded the night before I was to present our proposal to the expansion East Kent panel. However, they did not approve our application and I was shattered. Yet there was no going back. I had to move forward with the money that we raised. I hired a software engineer to work with me. I remember receiving that phone call from my mother, telling me that my father had another stroke. I didn't want to believe it, and as previously, was in denial about the severity of my father's condition. He always recovered before, I said to my mother as she's crying on the other line. But this time he didn't. My father passed away on the 7th of April, and while I didn't know it at the time, it affected me and my judgment drastically. Something that I'm very proud of is that we did manage to build a flying model of the Tu-523 using self-configurating algorithms, allowing the software to calibrate itself based on the aircraft's dimension and power. We achieved, with very little money, what large companies invest millions in. However, we made most of the progress after our keynote presentation to the media that we held just after 3 months. That didn't leave us much time to work on getting it into the air. But I knew we needed to raise new funds soon, and out of this presentation came 2 investment opportunities. I was offered £100,000 for the next development stage, leaving me in control of the development and vision of the aircraft for marginal equity, or a £20+ million investment by a former BP executive, but I was finding reasons why this wasn't a good deal. I was scared to lose my company, not to honor the vision that my father and I had for the technology, assuming they were going to pull us over the table. I hear you shouting at me right now. You have issues. And yes, I did have issues. I had just lost my father, not allowing myself to process his loss, and became severely depressed. As a result, I chose to work with Investor 1 for £100,000, but you probably already know. That money never made it into our bank account. What saved us a little bit of time was a £15,000 research and development tax credit. For months, this investor ensured me that he will transfer the money tomorrow, followed by another tomorrow and another tomorrow. My wife and I sold most things that had any value. Our car, tapped into our savings to pay the salaries of our software engineer, but soon even he lost all hope and told me that he was leaving. The timing couldn't have been worse. I was in contact with the BBC, our new and improved circuit boards were arriving, and the one person who could put it all together left. No hard feelings, but I do ask myself, what if we could have shown the flying prototype to the BBC? I would love to know if it would have made any difference. Anyway, it got a lot worse before it got better again. With my wife in and out of hospital, needing 2 surgeries, me trying to keep my shit together, looking after our 2 girls, and my wife with little to no income, we fell behind with our rent payments for about 6 months while accumulating many other debts. My wife suffered from severe depression and anxiety, and there was a point where we were evicted from our home with our 4 children. It wasn't easy coming out of this, with almost 5 years of struggle. But now, with all that is going on in the world, innovation is needed more than ever. And if I'm honest, I'm feeling a bit tingly. The famous poet and novelist Victor Hugo said, "Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come." Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. And remember to stay positive and motivated, and I shall see you in the next one.